Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Lebanon Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for January 2022. Could we have roll call, please?
Mark Vanneman, absent. Chad Kiger,
Here.
Bruce Polly,
Here.
Ron Edwards,
Here.
Lori Gross. Here.
Okay, we have 4 tonight. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes to the meeting of October the 4th? And if so, if there's any questions, if there's no questions, we'll look for a motion to approve.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. This is a public meeting, so anyone in the audience that wants to voice their opinions will get a chance. Just need to make sure everybody has signed in up there on Kelly's desk. And so we will start with docket number 21. Can we do that at the end? Okay, well, I guess we have the election of officers. So, is there a nomination for chairman and vice chairman?
I nominate Bruce Polly as
Second.
chairman.
Seconded.
And I got that, I was just seeing if there's anybody else that wanted to make a motion or anything. Well, okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. So I will be the chairman next year, and Chad is, you're the vice chairman, right?
I am.
Did we make that as a,
Do you want to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion to make Chad the vice chairman.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Chad. Thank you. Okay, now, it's been a long time since we met, so I'm a little off tonight.
Doing fine.
So, now, we have the meeting agenda for October the 4th. Everybody's had a chance to look at it, and we have to have,
Yeah, the last administrative item we have is you should have a copy of the 2022 meeting calendar, all the meeting dates, filing deadlines. So we just need you guys, assuming that we didn't mess up one of the dates, we just need to get you guys to approve those meeting dates so we can get out all the notices and all that sort of thing.
okay.
I make a motion, we approve the meeting dates for 2022.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, the meeting agenda for the dates for 2022 has been approved. Okay, now we can get down to business. The docket number 2159, Headley Condominium Association. The property is located at 310 Northwest Street here in Lebanon. Property is owned multifamily and comprised of approximately 0.34 acres. The property lot configuration is 122 feet wide by 120 feet deep. Ben?
All right, I'll give you a little bit of an overview of the property here, a little bit of the history here, and then we'll walk through the findings of fact on the staff report. So if they want to bring up the screen from the computer here, assuming I got it plugged in correctly. This is the site of the Headley condos on West Street. There are 12 units in this building that you see here. Associated with that, then there are 12 parking spaces along this west side alley, and there are 10 of them that are currently covered with this structure here, and then there are 2 of them here at the south end that are closest to the street. that are not covered here. So the request for you tonight is a front setback variance to allow them to extend this roof structure out and cover those last 2 parking spaces that you see here. Site plan would show you here. This gives you a site plan here that would show you, let me scroll down a little bit to, that structure would be about a little bit less than 6 feet. I think it's 5.8 feet from the property line at the front here. The accessory structure front setback requirement would state that the structure can be no closer to the front setback or no closer to the front property line or street than the primary structure, which is why you see here that the structure stops at the line with the primary structure as it was. A little bit of history on this. Back in 2001, there actually was a request to allow that structure to be constructed on those 2 parking spaces. They had actually submitted a building permit to the planning office, and at that time had not included a site plan. The building permit was approved in error, having not reviewed the site plan to determine the location of that structure, and it was discovered after the structure was being constructed that it did not meet those setback requirements. So there was some communication between the Headley condo owners and the planning staff about best solution forward in terms of how that structure should move forward. It was determined at that point that they would apply for a variance to allow that structure to remain as it was being constructed on those 2 parking spaces. And that did go to the Board of Zoning Appeals at their December 2001 meeting. And it was determined at that time that they hadn't met the findings of fact requirements or to approve that variance, and the request was denied. And I'll actually just I'll find my file from 2001, and I'll read from the order, a couple items. Number 7 in the order indicates that the strict application of the setback requirements of the code does not create an unusual and unnecessary hardship as applied to this real estate. Actually, that says number 4, but it should be number 8. Applicant has not demonstrated grounds or justification for the granting of the requested variance, and for these reasons, the application was denied. What you see before you tonight is the exact same request it was before the Board of Zoning Appeals in 2001. In fact, the site plan that I showed you actually was from the 2001 file. So the same request as before you tonight. So we'll walk then through findings of fact. As you recall, there are 3 statutory criteria that must be met in order for the Board of Zoning Appeals to approve a variance. The first one is that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Staff has determined that the proposed front setback poses no imminent threat to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. While the proposed structure would only maintain a 6-foot setback from the front property line, its location would not cause any visibility issues for drivers using the adjacent alley to enter onto West Street. That was our primary concern, that there wouldn't be any visibility issues, and there is plenty of visibility there to be able to pull forward on that alley and see traffic on West Street without it being blocked by that structure. In fact, street parking actually does more to reduce the visibility than does that structure. So we're not concerned about any sort of health or safety issue. Criteria number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Staff had determined that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. While the proposed structure would impact views from the adjacent home to the west, which is 316 West North Street, it is not anticipated this would substantially impact the use and value of the home. Criteria number 3, the strict application of the terms of the Unified Development Ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Staff has determined that the strict application of the terms of the Unified Development Ordinance would not result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. In order to meet the practical difficulty standard, the applicant would need to demonstrate that strict compliance with the UDO would represent an unnecessary hardship warranting the variance request. An unnecessary hardship must be particular and unique to the subject property, not something that is general to the neighborhood. In this case, the front setback as applied to this property is not in any way unique or in any way more burdensome to this property than any other property in the area. In addition, hardships considered by the BZA should be based on the particulars of the property or some condition peculiar to the physical property involved, not necessarily personal circumstances of the applicant or the property owner. And so while parking spaces can be permitted within the front building setback, there should be no expectation that those same spaces can be covered by an accessory structure if it does not also meet the setback requirements for said structure. And again, just to summarize earlier, we have determined that the strict application would not result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. For this, planning staff has recommended denial of the development standards variance request to allow the construction of a carport that does not meet the accessory structure front setback requirements. Be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
I don't have any. Thank you. Could that applicant please come forward and address the board with concerns and so forth?
Thank you very much, members of the board, Mr. Shine. My name is Bob Clutter. I'm an attorney here in Lebanon with offices at 117 West Main Street, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, which is the Headley Condominium Owners Association. I'll defer to Mr. Bontrager as to some of the details, but I think there's some notable ones. As he mentioned, the property is located at 310 Northwest Street. It's on the northwest corner of West and North Street. It's a pretty small site, and we go to this overhead. I think if that'll pull up, I want to show that again a little better. Is there something I switched for that? Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, this is the same one Ben had up. Again, this is North Street, West Street. You can see that there's about a 30-foot front yard on the West Street side, again about a 30-foot front yard on the North Street side. The rest of the lot is covered by the building. A little bit to the north here, you'll see a side yard. That's actually a utility easement right up here at the corner. There's a Lebanon utility pole and a pad for a dumpster. I'll show you that in a photo. And then the gray area here are the covered carports, 10 carports, and then the 2 open ones. The reason for the variance, obviously, is just simple math. We've got 12 owners and 10 covered parking spaces. The building was constructed in the early 1960s, 1962, 1963, we think. It's always been predominantly the same, at least from an exterior standpoint. There's always been 12 units, 4 on each floor. It's a 3-story building, very nicely maintained over the past 60 years. I've been in many of the units. They're beautiful on the inside. And so we've got 10 of the unit owners that have covered parking and 2 that don't. It's a pretty simple equation there. As Ben mentioned, this was heard by you all in 2001, or not you all, I'm not sure any of you were present during then, but we think that decision was erroneous in several requests. Firstly, I've carefully read through the order, and I don't believe it sets a standard, or at least certainly in the order, that complies with state statute. And so I believe it is clearly erroneous as a matter of law. Secondly, during that hearing, I've read through a lot of it. One of the neighbors, actually I believe it was the gentleman that lives right there, Mr. Busenbark, objected to the carports, saying that it obstructed his view of his house. I'm not sure how that would do that, but nonetheless, he retained the services of Mr. Franzen, a notable and eloquent attorney, and so they argued against the granting of the variance. And thirdly, circumstances have changed considerably. And I want to go through some photos real quickly just to orient everybody as to some of the things that we've already...
Mr. Clutter, can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Before we get too deep into any more of this, can you educate me on state statute or state law and why you think that the decision previously was erroneous?
Yes, the state statute states practical difficulty is the standard. And the practical difficulty, if you go through case law, it says there are a lot of different things that it talks about, one of which is a hardship, an unusual or unnecessary hardship. And I believe we can show that today. But it also talks about whether or not there is a reasonable alternative somewhere else you could locate this on the property. And since you've mentioned that, I'll go ahead and leave this up and show you exactly why there is no other reasonable alternative. You certainly couldn't build them to the north. That's a utility easement. The yellow outline roughly is equivalent to the property lines. It's a GIS drawn line, but it's pretty close. If we built them, put the two carports here, first of all, there's no access to West Street, and then we would be back again for the same variance because they would project farther than the front facade. And there's two patios there. Another option, somebody might suggest, well, you could build them on the south side next to North Street. Again, we don't have immediate access, but we're back here for the same variance again because they would project farther than the front facade. We go all the way back to the alley here to the west. That's a public alley, so we certainly couldn't build them over there and block the alley. These are really the only two available parking spots not on the street, and it's really the only place we can have two covered carports. So if you look at it under that standard, which several cases talk about in great detail, that you have to evaluate the practical difficulty standard based upon whether or not the proposed structure can be placed somewhere else on the property, and clearly it can't. Jumping back onto these photos real quickly. This one is taken essentially from the sidewalk along West Street, looking west. You can see the two uncovered spots. It's a nice carport that's there now. It's very well maintained. It's shingled. It's got an arched roof. It's not a special with a metal roof or a Quonset hut or anything like that. They're very nice. They fit the architecture and the amenities of the building itself. This is just a little bit closer view here, seeing that all 10 of these, or all 12 of the spaces currently pull straight out into the alley, and there's the sidewalk that goes up to the condominiums. This is another photo looking directly to the east. I'm standing on the west side of the alley here looking east, and this is one of the owner's vehicles right there. You can see again the edge of the carport. And the last photo I wanted to show you again goes to the practical difficulties. If some idea was, well, you can expand them to the north, you really can't. There's the utility pole that I spoke of, the Lebanon utility pole, the two guide wires, and you can see, I think it's a 20-foot utility easement that runs right along the side there. They did permit the concrete pad for the dumpster, but that's the only encroachment that's permitted into the easement. So again, we believe that that very much satisfies the practical difficulties standpoint. I wanted to talk for just a second about the change in circumstances too. When these were originally constructed in the 1960s, open to, of course, anybody that wanted to purchase them. Some of them were purchased by some retirees, some younger folks, some empty nesters, all different ages. Over the years that has changed, and even since 2001 has changed quite a bit. The average age of the 12 owners right now is 76 years old. That's the average. The youngest by far is Susan Marks and her husband, and they're 65. Is that right? 65? And they're considerably younger than all of the others. In fact, the two people that are affected, so all 12 spaces are assigned to an individual unit. It's not a free-for-all. Each unit has one space. So the two people affected are here today. Maxine Grinstead. Maxine, can you hold up your hand, please, or stand up? Thank you. And Barbara Wilson. Barbara's here also. These are the two wonderful ladies that are forced to have to clean ice and snow off their windshields and out of the back of their cars, around their cars, when the weather is inclement, that the other 10 don't have to. In fact, Maxine, I believe she goes by Grandma Max, is that right? Last winter, she was backing out, and because her car isn't covered, there was a great deal of snow behind it. I'll just pull up one of these photos. So because of the configuration of the carport, the snow kind of swirls around in here and it drifts up behind these two vehicles. She tried to pull out. I'm not sure where she was going that morning, maybe to the doctor's office, maybe to the pharmacy, maybe to go see her grandkids, but she got stuck and couldn't even get out of her vehicle. And she had to sit there and wait for neighbors to come and push her out. And that's just one instance. Over the years, there have been many more of people that have foregone going to the store or going to the pharmacy because they don't want to have to go scrape ice off, potentially slip and fall, and deal with the hazardous conditions that this situation creates. I would like to introduce for just a second the president of the Homeowners Association, Mary Zerfus. I think Mary would like to come up and say a few words.
Hello, I'm Mary Zerfus. I'm president of the Homeowners Association at the condo. Can you all hear me? Good. I do speak up. I'm 79 years old. I've gotten beyond the point of lying about my age to bragging about it. And I know that getting older is a good thing. You get better as you get older, unless you're a banana. The association as such is, we're very proud of the way we maintain our property. We don't want a piece of junk out there. We want a beautiful carport. We get compliments all the time on our landscaping and how well we keep up the property. And we're proud of that. But beyond being an association, we're a community. This is an unusual situation where most of us are older people. Well, we're all older people. But we're friends. We're a community. We care about each other. We trade recipes. We do things for each other. We chat in the hallways. It's a friendly community within that building. And we want to right a wrong that was done 20 years ago and get these carports covered for these ladies that are also senior citizens. It's not just winter weather, it's rain, it's wind. The carport covers the sidewalk, so once we get out of the car, we can walk up to the door of up to our back door and get in without getting drenched by rain or all of that. They offered to do a flash mob for you and sing "It's a Hard Knock Life." But yeah, they're ready to do it, but I don't think that's necessary. We just want you to know that we'd like to get it covered to make it more convenient for our neighbors, our friends.
In addition to Mary, and you've seen Maxine and Barbara there's several other residents. I got a note just handed to me from Alice Wines. She says, as an owner of condo number 2 at 310 Northwest Street, I want everyone to know that I'm in agreement with the coverings for all the cars at the same address. Still not feeling well and cannot go to the meeting tonight. My apologies. Again, that was Alice Wines. As I mentioned before, at the 2001 meeting, there was a significant remonstrance from a neighbor. As far as I'm aware, there's been no remonstrance for this case from any neighbors. There was a letter or a note received from one of the other owners, said that he didn't or wasn't in favor of it, but it's my understanding that was for a financial reason. And one thinks that if he were one of the ones that were parking in an uncovered space, he might have a different thought. But I do not believe he's in attendance tonight. I do agree with the staff report that Mr. Bontrager submitted in two respects, of course. I believe that we've firmly established criterias 1 and 2. But I do disagree as to number 3. As I mentioned, practical difficulties. The courts have repeatedly looked at, is there another reasonable alternative on the property? And clearly there's not here. If you want to look at the unnecessary hardship, boy, I think you've got it in spades. The unnecessary hardship to Maxine and Barbara that none of the other 10 have to put up with, the disparate treatment that they are receiving because of the city's ordinance is an unnecessary hardship, and it's a big one. I think the only reasonable alternative in conclusion is that we have met the standard in all 3 respects for the variance. The only true way that unnecessary hardship continues is by a denial today. And I think that would send a message that, you know, the importance is the city zoning ordinance as opposed to the safety and well-being of Barbara and Maxine, and I'm sure that's not anybody's intent, but that would certainly be the message that would be sent. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I think we've got any. Thank you.
I've got some questions.
Yes, sir.
How long have the residents that are assigned to these uncovered parking spaces, how long have they lived?
How long have they lived there?
Yeah.
All for that, Maxine? 20 years, okay. And Barbara? How long have you lived there? I'm sorry. 2006, so 15 years.
And always the same spark parking spaces, or do they change?
They've always had, they have changed? Okay.
And what's the rationale for the parking spaces changing? Is it,
I don't know that. That's an internal HOA discussion. I don't know if there's been any rationale for that, or it's just been potluck. But again, you know, if it was 20 or 30-year-olds, it wouldn't be much of a concern. But since all 12 of them there, average age is 76, it's a concern no matter who's assigned to it. Oh, Susan?
You need to come forward.
This is Susan Martz. She's the head of the Owners Association.
No, I'm the treasurer. Yes, treasurer. It was my understanding before we moved in there that if there was an empty condo, regardless of, you know, it was not owned at that time, then the person, one of the persons that had the uncovered spot would then move to that spot. And then, therefore, leaving those 2 uncovered ones to
that
continue
makes
with
sense,
them.
yeah.
Okay.
Would that mean that the parking spaces change based on vacancy?
Apparently, that has happened in the past. I don't know if that's always been the case, but
Okay.
over the past 60 years. Apparently, you know, if one goes up for sale, maybe whoever's got if that one had a covered space and somebody else maybe grabs it. But again, due to the age, the average age of the residents, it seems to be a concern regardless who comes in now.
Understood.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public meeting, so anybody in the audience that wants to come forward and speak, you're welcome to come forward. The only thing I ask is try and limit it to 2 or 3 minutes. But, so does anybody have anything to say? Oh, this is officially opening the public hearing. Come on forward.
My name's Jay Martz. My wife Susan just spoke. We're the youngsters that live there. We've had people fall there a couple of times. Jeannie's fallen a couple of times, Maxine's fallen a couple of times. If I'm around, if we're not traveling and the weather's bad, sure, I'll get out there with the shovel and try to shovel the spots out. We're not always there. Nobody else there in that building's able to shovel snow and to go out to sprinkle ice in the morning. We have tried in the past to find people that would come and keep the lot clean. We've had no luck at it. Lots of people say, yeah, we'll do this, and then they don't show up. We just have not had any luck at it. It seems like such a no-brainer to me. We really don't have any other options. Like I said, you've heard all the arguments. It doesn't obstruct anybody's view. It just seems to me common sense, and for safety's sake, it's worth it. Somebody takes a fall out there and breaks their hip or cracks their ribs or something. You know, as we get older, we don't snap back like we used to. There was a time we would have just dusted ourselves off, and I guess you guys can all, we all know that. But I guess that's it in a nutshell. To me, I understand there's rules and regulations, and I understand that. But I also understand that sometimes people need to take a look at the individual situation and say, we can alter this. This is not going to hurt anybody. This is not going to be any kind of detriment to the community. It's not going to hurt anybody's property value. It's not going to create a problem for our neighbors. And I think that's what we're all thinking, and that's why you guys are here. That's why we come here and make our case. But that's how I feel about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else care to voice their opinion? If nobody's going to step forward, we'll close the public end of the meeting. And does anybody up here have any questions? Okay, I would like to have a motion.
Ron, any thoughts? Comments?
I would, if I was to make a motion, I think I would make a motion to approve. And if I can, you looking for a motion now, Bruce?
Yes.
Motion, docket 21-59, I make a motion to approve.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve to have the variance request. So I'm ready for it. It recommends a denial. So you're approving.
I am approving, not denying.
Not the denial, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And you seconded it.
Second that, yeah.
And now Kelly.
Chad Kiger,
Aye.
Bruce Polly,
Aye.
Ron Edwards,
Aye.
Lori Gross.
Aye.
Okay, the motion has been approved for you to construct your carport, garage, whatever. So,
Thank you very much for your time.
Sure.
Appreciate it tonight. Thank you.
Okay, the next docket item is 22-1, and that individual cannot be here tonight. So that docket number will be continued until next month.
Yeah, he had a family commitment, so rules of procedure, BZA suggests it should either be continued or denied. I would recommend you would continue it to next month so he has a chance to be here. Just wanted to make sure for the record that we state the date of that meeting, which is February 7th at 7 PM.
We need a motion to do that? Okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion to continue docket
22-1.
22-1 for the February meeting on the 7th.
Second.
Okay, Kelly, you want to take roll again?
Chad Kiger,
Aye.
Bruce Polly,
Aye.
Ron Edwards.
Aye.
Lori Gross.
Aye.
Okay, that meeting was continued until next month.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any other business to discuss tonight? Okay, we will close. I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is adjourned, meeting is adjourned.